the Social Work Bubble podcast. I'm your host, Laura. It is another podcast with just me. Do not worry. The podcast will be back to having guests on it in just a couple weeks. I posted a podcast guest inquiry form, Google form on my Instagram, and I have a lot of people that are wanting to be on the podcast as guests. It's just a matter of getting back to them. So do not fret. If you are getting sick of me, I promise it is coming to an end so soon. So get excited about future guests. If you're interested in that, I will try to leave the Google form below. So if you're ever interested on being on the podcast, feel free to reach out. Today, we're going to be doing what we usually do. I'll kind of give a recap of my week, which hasn't been much. I'm recording this on a Tuesday. We'll do another card from the Anti-Burnout Card Deck. We'll go through a couple of Reddit prompts. I don't know what they're really called. And then we'll kind of wrap it up. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to like, share, follow, subscribe, do all of that fun stuff. And we will dive in. I think today we'll start with the Anti-Burnout Card Deck, so that way we can have a good chunk of time for the Reddit stuff. Today might be on the shorter end of an episode, just because I'm in the middle of my workday. I have things to do, but I wanted to make sure I recorded this because tomorrow's Wednesday. Podcast is supposed to go up on Wednesday, and me being super consistent lately, I'm trying to be on top of it. So, the Anti-Burnout Card Deck, as I've said before, is by Laura Warren, Mitch Ablett, and Christopher Willard. It's a great mindfulness practice to get into. So this prompt is labeled Mindful Meal Breaks. So everyone just get settled in, take a deep breath, and I will read the prompt. Food nourishes us physically, but we can also allow it to nourish us more deeply than a mere source of physical energy to get through the day. Try some simple mindful eating to nourish all of yourself for the rest of the workday. Set aside your laptop, phone, paperwork, reading material, and other distractions. Look at your snack or meal and reflect briefly on all the natural and human forces that came together in order to produce it and make it available to you. Breathe in and take in the aroma of your food. When you do take that first bite, give your full attention to the experience. Notice the texture, the flavor, and any reactions that might be occurring in your body and mind. Try chewing just a little more slowly than usual, pausing for a breath or two between bites. When you're done, resolve to use the energy this food has given you to stay more awake and present for yourself and your clients during the rest of the day. I love this. I talk about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding a lot. I do talk to my clients about mindful eating. I feel like this is a really good prompt for yourself and also to share with your clients. But I also think this is great because this emphasizes the importance of actually taking your lunch break and enjoying it, having a mindful moment, having a relaxation moment with you, yourself, your food, and that whole experience, because that can be really calming and really energizing. So that is the prompt for today. I do have a couple of new Reddit posts that I saw. So this first one is by Healthy Jackfruit 56. It says, bullied by a coworker. This is the prompt. It's a little long, but we will get into it. Okay. Maybe I wouldn't say bullied, but I'm not sure what other word to use. I work on a small team of mental health professionals and have been the past 5 years. One of my colleagues has actively ignored me throughout the years unless I ask her a direct question in a team meeting. For example, if I say hi to her in the morning, she acts like I don't exist. I used to think she mistakenly didn't hear me, so I'd repeat myself 3 times, but now I've stopped saying hi. Ugh. Overall, it's fine because I don't feel like being coworkers equates to being friends, sure. But now today, the colleague straight up said she had printed materials for the team in a team meeting and proceeded to walk around the conference room to hand each person a packet and completely ignored me and didn't give me one. This is crazy. Just so everyone knows, I'm reading this for the first time. I really only see, when I pick these out, I read like the title and like the first sentence. I'm like, this feels good. Let's do it. So this is basically like a first reaction for me. There was only like 5 of us in the room, and I'm pretty sure other team members had confused looks on their faces. Yeah, she definitely had a packet she could have given me, so it's not like she didn't print enough. I just feel surprised. It's one thing to ignore me one-on-one, but to treat me that way in front of the team, I'm literally just confused. Honestly, this time it also hurt my feelings and felt embarrassing, and I teared up briefly when I got to my office. Guess I'm wondering what others think of this behavior or if they've had similar situations. I just want to say, first and foremost, this coworker does not sound pleasant to be around at all. Like that, social work is hard, like it is a draining job, but I just have really found the people that you work with, the support that you get, your colleagues can make such a dramatic difference in your experience and whether you burn out or not. Like, it is life-changing. And so for someone to just be acting this way based on this post, no reason whatsoever, is weird. It's weird. It also, through my time as a therapist and just being an adult, I think we've also always thought, okay, bullying is such a high school thing. Let me tell you, the world is full of adult high schoolers, and it is so unfortunate because people are unhealed. They carry their own demons. They can be really mean, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I've never had an experience like this myself, thankfully. I did have a supervisor that was difficult to deal with, but there was never this kind of bullying that was happening, especially like in front of other people. I do think your feelings are valid. Like, I think it's totally cool to feel hurt, to feel all these things, but I do think it's more embarrassing for her, for this person, than it is for you. Because they really just showed who they are in front of everybody, which is wild. It's so wild. Now, according to the Code of Ethics, this is really if you only have an ethical dilemma, or you notice a coworker is behaving in a potentially unethical way, it is recommended that you talk with them one-on-one before escalating to supervisors, anything like that. Now, that is in the situation of an ethical dilemma. I'm going to have to refresh on the Code of Ethics, to be quite frank, which I have to do as I'm prepping for my LCSW, but it is important as social workers that we treat colleagues with respect and with dignity and with compassion, just as much as we bring those values and qualities to the clients that we support and the communities that we support. I think in this situation, it could be helpful to directly just call it out and be like, hey, this has been going on. I'm not sure what the problem is, but if you do have a problem, it would be much easier, much more effective to talk to me directly so we can deal with it, rather than making a really difficult work environment and for the both of us, because I also just imagine, this person is thinking about you. It's just, that's too much. Doing too much. So I do think I'm always pro communication and just being direct and calling people out on their crap. Especially if we are being affected. Now, do I think this person is going to be super receptive and responsive to it? Probably not, based on their behavior, especially being so blatant and awful. But I say this to say, once you kind of check that box of, okay, I talked to them one-on-one and directly, I did my best, I used neutral language, I tried to understand them and see if there was an issue, if there was a miscommunication. I will say this, I remember this time when I was in high school, when this is literally over 10 years ago now, which is crazy. When someone got mad at me because they said that I made a face at them in the hallway. When I tell you, I barely knew who this person was, and I definitely did not make a face at them in the hallway. You know, it was probably just like an RBF situation. And so I'm just like, I was so caught off guard, where this person could very well have an actual problem with you for something that was like a miscommunication, something that they interpreted in a really negative way, a really personal way. And I think that's also the point of this communicating, is you're also you're being the bigger person and giving them the space to be direct with you, because they have been very indirect and passive aggressive towards you. Now, if this person is not receptive or at all able to communicate anything and why they're operating in this way, and this kind of stuff continues, it is totally reasonable and realistic to bring it to a supervisor's attention, because also this kind of stuff is going to affect the team dynamic. It's going to affect your ability to feel comfortable in the workspace. That could therefore affect your work with clients. Like, this creates a hostile work environment, and that is totally unnecessary and uncalled for. Now, I usually just try to, maybe it's because I'm kind of avoidant of conflict. I do try to be the bigger person and just like really lean into like leading with love. And so even though this person is treating you like trash, to just still say hi, not even say hi, but just like smile, like be cordial. I don't think I would have been able to do this in this meeting, but hindsight's 2020, looking back, leaning into that courage and being able to say, can I have a packet as well? You know, and right then and there, in that moment, you're just asking the question, but you're also just calling out that behavior. In a way that is not passive aggressive, right? Your tone does matter, all that is important. But this person is just being real weird. I've been seeing more posts about like the mean girl to nurse pipeline, and just seeing some people I grew up with that are also social workers. I think the mean girl to social work pipeline is very real and unfortunately thriving. And a lot of those mean girls are white women. So it's tough. I would just say try to lead with love. Obviously, do your best to have this one-on-one conversation, if anything, just to check a box and say that you did it. Because that also shows who you are. That shows your character, that you really are just doing your best. But it's hard. It really, really is hard to deal with someone like that. Okay, so the next Reddit post is by a live friend, 3974. This one says, overwhelming first day. Hi all, as you can figure out by the heading, I had my first day as a remote social worker today. This is my first job as a social worker after I graduated. I was pretty overwhelmed by the amount of workload and calling up clients on the first day. I already have a few lined up for the next 2 days. I wanted to know how you or someone or anyone coped with the anxiety of having to make calls. I was completely overwhelmed today, but I felt supported by my supervisor as she guided me through the day. I would love to hear about your stories and experiences. Okay, this person is specifically asking about coping with the anxiety of having to make calls. Ugh, does anyone like to make calls? I actually wonder. This used to be a big anxiety for me. I don't really have to make phone calls anymore. I still get nervous when I'm waiting for a client to join a video call because I work completely remotely. But we usually only communicate via email. So that's usually fine. I still get a little bit, oof, what's today going to be? How are they going to be? You know, that's just the unpredictable nature of our work. In terms of making phone calls, I used to make them a lot more when I was doing a lot of case management stuff on top of being a therapist when I was in community mental health. In that role, it was you did do a lot of like case management tasks as well, and that was a lot of phone calls. I do think a big part of this anxiety is it is your first day and it is absolutely overwhelming. You are learning so much. You are fresh graduate. Like, I remember even just remembering your field placement or internship experiences, how hard it was to not have imposter syndrome and to kind of be like, oh my gosh, I'm such a flop. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. And that is completely normal. And it's normal to have that in your first job and even after your job after your first job. You know, sometimes we get a little in our head. I do think in doing a task, something for me is I like to have a fidget object. And I remember affirming to myself, this will be fine. You know, like, I know this client, or maybe I don't know this client. We'll see how it goes. If it helps to even write out a script of like, okay, this is what I want to say, if it's an initial phone call, if it's an initial consultation, I, to this day, still have a notepad where I like bullet point, these are the things I want to make sure that I say and that I touch on here. Because it's also hard, like it's overwhelming. I mean, I get this way when I have consult calls with new clients before we start meeting, just to see if we're a good fit for each other, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to expect. I want to make sure I cover everything, and this and that. So that is that. And then I also just think with time and with practice, it does get a lot easier. As you build rapport with these clients, those phone calls also get a lot easier. You know, I think now there's even many sessions I have now where I'm like excited to start the session, because even if we talk about hard stuff, there's something so beautiful and complicated and weird about our work where we do have like an attachment and a connection to the people that we work with, and we can get excited to see them in a professional capacity. And I think that will just come with time. You know, I've been working with the clients I've been working now for like 2.5 years. Some of them have stayed with me since I first started at this job. And it's just, I remember some clients I used to be so nervous around, and some it took like longer for me to not feel nervous around than others. And now it's just in such a good spot where you can just tell that rapport is there. And so I do think it is just with time. You dove right into this experience. It is a lot, especially when you're remotely. I mean, this person says that they felt supported by their supervisor, who guided them through the day, which is really awesome, because I think supervision is so huge in people staying in this field and feeling supported. So I think that's awesome. But even though you had that support by a supervisor, you were still working remotely. And working remotely can feel very lonely and can make a new job feel even more overwhelming. Because even when I started my first job post-grad, I was able to do in-person sessions and be in the office a couple days a week. And so I was still able to see other therapists, or like pop my head into someone's office when they weren't seeing a client and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, it was just a different energy that I really love and that I do miss now that I'm completely remote. But keep that in mind too, is like, these are many, many transitions and adjustments all on top and like compounded together. It is going to take time. So I do think just breathe, ground yourself in this present moment, ground yourself in like, this is so exciting that you're at this new job. You're learning so much. It's so beautiful to be at the beginning stages of like building rapport and relationships with clients, and just even visualize the trajectory of someone's treatment and who they're going to be in your work together a year from now. It's just like it's really exciting and energizing to be in those first moments with people, because you have no idea what that future is going to look like, and so much of it can be so much progress and success and milestones that you'll be able to be a part of. So I think just lean into the excitement, hold space for all the feelings, but remember too, like, it's normal, and it also just comes with practice. Before you know it, you'll be making phone calls like nobody's business, and it'll be great. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Well, those are the Reddit dives for today. Um, Gosh, it just brings me back. It brings me back to my early days. I'm still a pretty fresh social worker, to be so honest. I've only been practicing for like 4 years, so it's been 4 years since I graduated grad school, which is insane. I'll say that. Time after the pandemic has been, I don't know, I can't even describe it. I can't even describe that. Ugh. But it just brings me back. I have such fond memories because I used to be so anxious and I used to have so much imposter syndrome. And I used to think that it would never go away. And I've seen some people that also question, oh, does this mean I can't do this work? I'm not good enough to be in this field. And when I tell you, it takes time. It really just takes time. Like I've been in the work for 4 years now, post-grad, and I have so much more confidence. I feel so much more secure in who I am and my style and what I treat and what clients will like vibe with my style. I could make a phone call, no problem. Honestly, part of that does just depend on my mood, and that can be hard. But it is just like taking a breath and kind of also visualizing just big picture of your life. You are at a starting point right now. You have so much ahead of you. Your journey can take you in a million different places. Social work is so cool in that way and so crazy, where it's exciting. I just love when social workers are starting out because I just have such fond memories of that time, even though it was hard and there was a lot. This is also just normal adjusting to having a job after being in school your whole entire life. Like, it is a big, big adjustment. Because there's also just on top of being a fully remote worker, there's those adjustments, having a work-life balance and boundaries. Like, it is a lot. So I really appreciate people being so open and honest and sharing their experiences. And now I look back on that time when I was so insecure and afraid and worried about how I was doing. And now I'm just like, ugh, it's so different. I feel so good. I'm at a spot where I didn't think I would be at. It's so crazy how someone's journey can go in social work and where it can lead you. So this is a short one today. It is literally like a 20-minute episode. Oh my goodness. I hope this is just like a little tidbit that will get you through the work day or wrap up your work day for you. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget you can subscribe to the bonus episodes on Buzzsprout. You can also check out the Etsy shop that has a whole bunch of workbooks. It has a great 98 coping skills poster, an anger workbook, an ADHD workbook, safety plans, CBT workbooks for kids and adults, like really cool stuff on there. Everything on the shop is $5 and below. I want to make those resources quality and accessible to social workers. So you can go check that out. And again, if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, I'll link the Google form below that you can fill out. And I'm not saying I'm going to get back to you tomorrow, but I will get back to you at some point. I promise you that. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining me today and for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.